black Marine. He showed me his ID card from World War II, and I felt like a total imbecile because I had no idea. By the way, the same day I met Rosa Parks for the first time, because Rosa Parks is not the godmother of the civil rights movement.
September
One of
Clark.
my babysitters, September Clark, is the godmother of the civil rights movement. But my point is this. I was at this church in Yorba Linda, it's Basson Cherry, and what happened was this brother started crying just touching my bars because he'd never seen a black man in a Marine Corps officer's uniform.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of research, and I'm not going to take credit for it, but I will say I hope that I was instrumental in stopping Clint Eastwood for even being nominated for an Academy Award, because he made a movie about World War II, and he refused to include the black Martha Point Marines in his movie.
Yeah,
Even when there it is. So when Judge Joe Brown is telling you what he's saying, what I'm telling you is this, okay? A lot of folks in the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Marine Corps hate me because I share information that's history, not his story.
Right.
And I share information based on folks who are mentors who prevented me from being killed by Navy SEALs and Marine Corps recon. And I've trained most of those guys. And when the judge comes on the show and starts talking about what he's saying, he doesn't know what I know. And what I would just tell you about down in Louisiana and down in Memphis, Tennessee, Lee Harvey Oswald was Naval Intelligence. I know, I was Naval Intelligence. I can't say everything I want to say, but I'll just say this. I was involved in a program where I was going to take somebody out, but thank God I didn't fall for the brainwashing and the technology, and I didn't. And I still won't talk about it for a long time, but just like Lee Harvey Oswald, he was involved with, these guys like David Ferry. Well, if you look at the movie American Made with Barry Seal grew up with Lee Harvey Oswald. Barry Seal grew up with David Ferry. So unlike American Made, that I highly recommend, and both the Trump administration and Hillary Clinton did not want you to see that movie. That's why Harvey Weinstein went down. Everybody knew he was a pervert, but he went down because he came out with a movie showing you what was really going on during Iran-Contra, and I hate Ollie North, but I'm one of the guys who helped pay for his legal defense. Trust me, you folks have no idea. So anyway, I'm just saying, when you see the movie like American Made, where people were killed during the filming of that movie, and that's why Tom Cruise did all his own flying, because he knew he would be killed if he didn't go along. Harvey Weinstein didn't go down for being a pervert. Harvey Weinstein went down because of the movie American Made. You look at the guys like this guy who does the movie, the TV show House of Cards, okay? Kevin Spacey did not go down for being a pervert. Kevin Spacey went down because in House of Cards, seasons 5 and 6 tells you what's really going on in this country. And I know Judge Joe Brown is like, what the hell is he talking about? Trust me, this is what I do. Dick Gregory told folks a long time ago, I'm the human early warning system.
Yes, sir.
I didn't want to accept that. I didn't even know what Dick Gregory was telling me until my mother told me right before she died, when I was only 2 years old. Nazis in this country were using me for psychic experiments in New York City. So I'm just listen to what I'm telling you, please, because I know I'm going to let Judge Joe Brown continue. If you look at 22 November, when Kennedy was taken down, if you look at Martin Luther King assassinated, if you look out here in L.A. with Robert F. Kennedy assassinated, please, folks, go back and do some research on one name, a guy named Milter. And I know Judge Joe Brown knows who that is, so I'm going to shut up now and ask you, Judge Joe Brown, what do you know about Joseph Milter?
I don't know that much about it.
Oh, my God!
Listen.
John Birch Society, who told you they were going to kill King.
Listen. The way I approach history is not to know the names. It's the significance of the acts. So I have a lot of stuff cluttering my head up over the years, so I may not remember a name, but I remember the significance of what somebody did, all right?
Yes, sir.
So that's the way I approach it. But not the bottom. I hate that term. Well, I don't know where I got that from.
White folks.
Yeah. This thing is dangerous. Something needs to be done about it. And to a great extent, even if nobody were carefully and calculatedly plotting and planning to do something, when you get a governmental entity dealing with what is called a body politic, the whole thing starts acting like an organic entity, and it starts behaving as though it has its own motives and purposes. So things that can look like conspiracies can just evolve matter-of-factly.
Strictly business. Strictly business.
Yeah, sometimes things that don't look like much are actual conspiracies, but the whole thing functions in a certain way. And after something has been doing the same thing for a while, when it is just body politic, there's usually an organic reason for it doing that. So I try to seek out the reasons and how it got or evolved to where it was. Now, one of the things that is very bad right now is we've got this Homeland Security / Patriot Act thing.
No shit.
It made what J. Edgar Hoover did that was illegal. It now makes it legal.
Now, but wait, brother, before you go on, so for you listeners out there who don't know, what Judge Joe Brown is alluding to, when Nixon became president, he put a guy on the Supreme Court that he hoped would support him. There was a program called the Houston Plan, Huston Plan. This plan was so nefarious that even his own Supreme Court appointee said, hell no. Now you fast forward to 1994, you got William Jefferson Clinton in the White House. You got Hillary talking about black folks being super predators.
Yeah. And
Bill Clinton endorsed the Congress. Trust me, I know this because I was there. And they passed a bill called the 1994 Omnibus Crime Bill. If you look at the Omnibus Crime Bill of 1994, it says to you, based on the Safe Street Crime Act during the Nixon administration. So what I'm telling you folks, because a lot of folks worship the damn Democratic Party.
Yeah.
What the Republican Nixon administration could not get passed in 1994, and I came on radio shows telling people, please don't let this happen. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, folks like Malvo, the black feminists, all these new age folks like Oprah Winfrey and others who support the Hillary Clinton campaign. And remember, I told you I turned down a White House fellowship and a Fulbright scholarship. I didn't go along with the program. I won't sell my soul. I'm letting you know, trust me when I tell you this. These folks that came in the early 1990s under Bill and Hillary Clinton, and if you look at Savoy magazine, spring 2018, you see all the House Negroes in there. I didn't go along with the program, but a lot of these folks who were going along with that program, what the Republican Party, and by the way, my children grew up playing at the Nixon Library. I'm not making this up. And Nixon Library, they invite me to everything. So what I'm saying, what Nixon couldn't pass during his term in office, Barack Hussein Obama got later, but Bill Clinton, as a Democrat, got passed. And if you folks want to know what I'm talking about, go back to what Judge Joe Brown just stated. Go back and look at the Houston Plan, Huston Plan. Now, I retired from LAPD. On LAPD, the biggest domestic spy scandal was the LAPD PDID, Police Disorder Intelligence Division. That was run by Western Goals Foundation. Western Goals Foundation is a John Birch Society organization. Now they're in England, and they're doing in England what they used to do here, but they're also doing it here, and the money comes from the Mercer family, the Koch brothers, and the people who put Donald Trump and Mike Pence in the White House. And if you look back at who killed Robert F. Kennedy, I'm from L.A. When Robert F. Kennedy was killed, the number one coroner in this country was Noguchi. Noguchi was not allowed to testify in that trial because he said Robert F. Kennedy was killed 3 inches or less behind his head. And as you know, luminary black NFL player Rosie Greer took it to round down. Same thing happened in the O.J. Simpson trial. The L.A. coroner said that the blood found with O.J.'s blood in it had preservatives in it. So just like during the Robert F. Kennedy assassination, they brought in a coroner from the Bay Area. Just like during the O.J. Simpson trial, they brought in a coroner from the Bay Area. How do I know? I refuse to testify in the O.J. Simpson trial. Brother, please continue.
Oh, I was just going to say, it might be helpful to your research. There is a Center for Records and Review of Assassinations Records and Review Bureau. They had it down on 14th Street in downtown D.C. up until a few years ago when I think they moved it out to Bethesda. But if you go in there, you can make a request and they will give you certified copies of documents that you can request, or they can do research for you for a fee. It was enabled by Congressional Act and 2 executive orders by George Herbert Walker Bush and Bill Clinton. And all of the agencies involved in the assassination attempts that were involving national figures, King, Wallace, the Kennedys.
Oh, my God. I'm sorry, brother. Stop before you go on. You mentioned George Wallace.
Hold on a second.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother.
Hold on. The point is it even includes memoranda, internal memoranda. And in the record that they have here in that great file in Memphis, they wound up putting stuff in there that may or may not still be there. But they were internal memoranda by the FBI discussing whether King would be more dangerous as a dead martyr or as alive. Memos are printed in our office memos. They didn't even go thorough. They just said discussion on the issue at hand as per the director's wishes. Check with agent so and so. Point more dangerous dead or alive? Question mark, and then this points raised down in handwritten memos, so you can identify who wrote them.
So what I want to tell you folks, I don't give a damn. I'm drunk now.
Me too.
Stop laughing, Patrick. So anyway, my point is this, okay? What the brother just said was this, okay? They didn't know what was really going on. So let me just tell you folks, I call him Gay Edgar Hoover, and there's a meaning to my madness.
John Colson.
Gay Edgar Hoover got popped in a bathroom at the Delray racetrack. Now, I'm from Southern California, and I mean, Mitt Romney has a house down here in La Jolla, which is close to Delray racetrack. This news reporter, he was just walking out the bathroom, and he saw Gay Edgar Hoover walking out the stall with a little boy, and his career was over. Trust me, I don't give a damn about heterosexuals or homosexuals. But the point is, Gay Edgar Hoover destroyed the careers of many people because of their homosexuality, including that news reporter who saw him coming out the bathroom with this little boy. Now, why am I saying this to you? Because while Judge Joe Brown is talking this, he doesn't have my background, okay? And I'll just say, there's a lot of stuff that came out under the COINTELPRO, the Houston Act, and the whole thing going after the Black Panthers, because earlier we talked about Ron Karenga, and he talked about Kwanzaa, okay? LAPD SWAT, I trained a lot of them. In fact, probably most guys in LAPD SWAT, I trained them. Anyway, LAPD SWAT has 4154 in their cars. 41 symbolized 41st Street Central, Geronimo Pratt. Geronimo Pratt was a Silver Star recipient. He knew how to fortify a compound. LAPD came after him, and he told all the guys, take your clothes off, walk outside in your chonies. LAPD can't kill you. And 54 for LAPD SWAT is the Symbionese Liberation Army. So when Judge Joe Brown was talking earlier, he doesn't know what I know. I'll just tell you this.
Symbionese Liberation Army. I recruited Geronimo Pratt to UCLA.
Hey, okay, and we get deeper than this, because when you go back to Ron Karenga and he talks about Kwanzaa, that was used as a seven-headed cobra symbol for the Symbionese Liberation Army.
Damn.
Yeah, the Symbionese Liberation Army is interesting. There was a guy named Ronald DeFreeze known as...
Hell yeah, Donald DeFreeze, not Ronald DeFreeze, yeah. Donald DeFreeze.
Well, Donald DeFreeze. I went to junior high.
Oh my God, dude, we're going to get in trouble today.
I went to junior high school with him at John Muir Junior High School.
That's absolutely correct. You know, I already know this, right?
Interesting thing here.
So, have you ever heard of the book called The Glass House Tapes?
Yeah, that's, I know the brother that did that. It's called The Glass House, and there's a second one called Glass House 2. And that is, I saw him identified at a trial, a murder trial, one time as the #1 undercover agent for LAPD.
There it is.
Unit, not as an informant. That is, what is his name? It'll come to me in a bit.
Well, before you go on, brother, let me just tell you folks who you don't know. The Glass House refers to Parker Center. That's the Glass House.
I know what it refers to.
No, but your listeners don't know this.
Yeah, well, okay, I was going to get into it a little bit deeper. The first exposure to the Glass House is back in the early 70s. Playboy magazine ran a 2-part story covering Glass House.
Yes, they did.
Glass House 1. Okay. But back to Cinque Ronald DeFreeze.
Yes, sir.
All right. I remember I had gotten out of law school, and somebody else who had gotten out of law school called me up. I was in Nashville. So what's going on, man? He said, guess who I just saw? I said, who? He said, that punk-ass Ronald DeFreeze. I said, where did you see him? He said, well, you know, I'm working for the California Attorney General's office. He just walked out of Elville Younger's office. I said, no shit. Are you sure that's him? I said, I haven't seen that punk in years and years, because this brother had gone to John Muir with me too, but he'd wound up going through UCLA Law School. So I heard from him a week later. He said, yeah, that was Ronald DeFreeze, because I walked up to him and spoke to him, and he responded to his name. Now, the interesting part about this is, why is Ronald DeFreeze coming out of a meeting with Elville Younger, former California State Attorney General, former district attorney for L.A., 3 weeks before the Patty Hearst kidnappings?
There it is.
Now, see, the Glass House, I'm trying to remember the brother's name. He wrote some interesting stuff in there. And in Glass House, too, he talks about how with the LAPD burglary squad, they burglarized Angela Davis's home.
Yeah.
That carbine, and the other weapon, and gave it to that young fool who had a brother in with the Soledad brothers to set that thing up.
Oh, my God. And wait, brother, before you go on, so for you folks who are too young to remember this, and most of the LAPD cops who I know listen to the show today, go back and look at a book called The Melancholy History of Soledad Brothers by Min Yi. But I'm sorry, brother, go ahead.
Okay, anyway, the Glass House, Louis Hackwood, that was...
Yes, I know who Louis... Go ahead, brother.
I knew him, too. Interesting is how deeply... He didn't tell everything he knew.
Hell no, he didn't.
But he was an officer. He wasn't just an informant. Anyhow,
that's correct.
He put some interesting things in the Glass House, like how Franco Diggs, Captain Franco for the Panthers, got done in, which filled in some blanks for some people, self-included, and some other things, and how he was directed by Elville Younger to...
Oh, my God!
He says that in the Glass House. Now, that comes because that scurrilous bandit, Ronald Reagan, was going around saying that communists had infiltrated the California University of California. The LA
That's correct.
Jumped him and said, find somebody. So he came up with Angela Davis because she was with the Che Lumumba Club some years ago. Before
and what happened at the Marin County Courthouse when they took the judge hostage?
Yeah, that's because those weapons got, according to Louis Tackwood in that book, House, he says along with the burglary squad for LAPD, burgled her house and stole those weapons and took them up and gave them to that young 16, 15-year-old hothead who was supposed to be driving the getaway van. And
what happened to the white judge in that whole thing?
Well, a whole bunch of people got shot, kidnapped, done in on that. And
all right, stop, brother, stop, because we have to help these folks. So for you folks don't have a clue to what I'm talking about, I have never spoken to Judge Joe Brown. I have never communicated with Judge Joe Brown. But you need to understand what we're doing right now. He just shared something with you that I've confirmed you don't even have a clue to what's going on with the Angela Davis, the white judge who got killed, the Jackson brothers, Soledad prison. There's so much that Judge Joe Brown knows. There's so much that I know. We've never talked to each other. And if you listen to what we're telling you, I'm just going to make this real simple for you. Go back and look at LAPD, Public Disorder Intelligence Division. That was one of the biggest scandals in LAPD history. Then look back at what's called Western Goals Foundation. Because back in those days, John Birch Society, congressman from Georgia, ran Western Goals, and they were running the Domestic Surveillance Intelligence Division out of LAPD. This is very important that you hear what I'm telling you. Because so many folks thought they were fighting the system. They think they were fighting the system, but they were doing exactly what the system wants. LAPD, PDID came under attack. Today, most of that intelligence is done by private organizations, and Western Goals Foundation is out of Great Britain. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, the congressman from Georgia running PDID, Western Goals Foundation, was supposedly shot on Korean Airline 007, McDonnell. That's how Newt Gingrich became a congressman from Georgia, because the congressman who was supposedly before him got killed. You folks have no idea what's going on, and most of the folks who thought they were fighting the system when a government agency was under surveillance, now it's all done on the fusion centers that are done by private corporations. But I'm sorry, brother, go ahead.
Anyway, you get into something, you look at it, and it's not what it looks like on the surface. I talk to people all the time that are mad at something, and what they're mad at isn't really their problem, and what their problem is they don't know about. So it is what it is, and I've said one of the problems we have as a people is that we are no longer slaves, but we do serve a vital function.
Yes.
For this system, in that we diffuse interpersonal hostility and aggression by giving the general society a scapegoat. And they can blame us. I know why America is not great anymore. It's these militant Negros and these long-haired pinko comment, hippies. That's what's wrong with America. Or now it's somebody Reagan era is cheating off. She's got 5 fur coats, 2 Lincolns, and a Cadillac from her welfare cheats. But that doesn't happen either. But they put it out there so they can.
Hell yeah. See, now, before you go on, brother, I have to break this down. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. What the brother's referring to is Reagan ran him for president, and they had the welfare queen. Lee Atwater, who's from South Carolina as I, created that whole total bullshit propaganda. There is no black welfare queen. And yet today people still repeat that. It never really existed. She doesn't exist. But that's what they use to cause people to hate Black America, even though the vast majority of people on welfare are white. But I'm sorry, brother.
Wow.
Go ahead.
See, and since we talked about him early, Barack Obama and Ronald Reagan are very similar to each other
no shit.
in the way they approach stuff, the way they address people. Reagan said, and my friend Mary Tompkins has been struggling so hard.
Oh, my God.
They got welfare queens who have 3 fur coats and driving luxury cars and eating prime rib while she has to suffer along, and it's her money being taken away to support these, etc., etc. And Mary Tompkins, and then you get Barack Obama. And I have here Mary, who is suffering so and so. It's the same kind of nonsense. You know, it's if you take political science, I think it's political science 114B or 214B, something like that, in terms of methodology. It's down to a science. They've been working on it for thousands of years as to what works and why it works and how they can manipulate the public with the means at hand. So it's done frequently. So we have to be vigilant and pay attention to what's going on, but see that bread and circuses bit. We get fed, and we sure get into our entertainments, whether it's basketball, whether it's the Kardashians, whether it was the old time soap or other kind of stuff. It really gets kind of crazy. So, you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is. So before you go on, brother, let me just tell the folks this, okay? I had no idea I was being manipulated. I had no idea I was being groomed. I told you earlier that William Jefferson Clinton, you know, he became president in 92. And when he ran, there was Bill Clinton, Ross Perot, and George Herbert Walker Bush. They're all cousins. They're all from the same small town in Europe, their family. If you guys think you decide who the president is, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Okay? And 1992, as always, the election day is Tuesday. Well, Sunday, which is 2 days before Election Day, the Orange County version of the LA Times put a 2-page ad. I didn't know about it until I saw it. They put a 2-page ad, and it has a photograph of Bubba, Hillary, Chelsea, and their dog walking across the White House lawn, and says, "We would like to take this opportunity to thank the following people for putting us in the White House." Now, mind you what I say to you. This was on Sunday, 2 days before the elections, and Tuesday. Of course, my name was one of them. That's why I know about it, because folks at LAPD saw my name in the... I'm like, I didn't know this was going on. They saw my name in the LA Times. They're like, what the hell? And LAPD hates... Oh, they hate... they hate Bill Clinton. So what I'm telling you is this. Now, Judge Joe Brown just talked about this whole mayor. Go back and research Korean Airline Flight 007. Go back and research PDID, Public Disorder Intelligence Division. Go back and research Western Gold Foundation. Okay? Because the reason I'm telling you this, that happened under Reagan. Today, they are bigger and stronger than ever. And while you folks thought you were fighting the system of a government agency like LAPD doing this domestic violence, now the domestic spying on you is being done by private agencies, is bigger and stronger than ever before. And I know it's just a matter of time before they take my ass out, because they're not going to let me get away with telling you this. I'm just letting you know, if you thought that PDID, Public Disorder Disinformation, is gone, now we call it fusion centers. So for you folks to listen to me who don't have a clue, 1, research fusion centers. 2, research PDID. And 3, research Western Gold Foundation. Because what Judge Joe Brown is telling you, what he experienced during the 60s and 70s in L.A., he didn't know what was going on. I do know what's going on because I was groomed by them. and even Donald LaFreeze, SLA, when they were planning on blowing up the Republican National Convention in 1972. Folks like Donald LaFreeze went to LAPD, went to LA Sheriff. They told them, fuck you. They went to KPFK, Pacifica radio station. They had a polygraph come in and interview him and go, oh my God, this guy's telling the whole truth. If you think what I'm telling you is a lie, go back and look at what happened in 1972. Because of Donald LaFreeze and other folks coming forward, the Republican National Convention was moved from San Diego to Miami, Florida. And if you look at any movies related to Vietnam War veterans, and guess what? Once again, our Scientology boys in it. He plays a movie where he's a handicapped Vietnam veteran who handcuffs his wheelchair to the gate at the Miami, the Republican National Convention. What they don't tell you about that whole thing is that was all created because they had to move the Republican National Committee convention from San Diego to Miami because there were white folks in the Nixon administration who were going to use blacks, use browns, and even use white Hells Angels, whatever, this whole domestic terrorism, and blow up the Republican National Convention in San Diego in 1972. And that's why you see this movie about Ron Kovic, born on the 4th of July. That's the movie that shows you the Republican National Convention moved to Miami. The floor is yours, brother.
No, well, yeah, all of that fits in. Is what it is.
It is what it is.
I had the interesting experience of having a visiting Russian professor at UCLA. She taught a course called The Sphere of Soviet Influence in World Politics.
Hell yeah.
She was an interesting woman. She had been the highest ranking woman on the Soviet Politburo at one time. And she had also been the highest ranking woman in the Soviet NKVD, which was the predecessor of the KGB. So,
brother, do you remember that woman's name?
Well, I'm not going to say it, but...
Okay. Well, wait, before you go on. So what the brother just told you, NKVD, before NKVD and KGB, now it's called FSB, but don't go ahead, brother.
Hold on. That was KGB that it became, but she reported at one time to just two people, Beria, who was head of the secret police, and Stalin. But in any event, she got very intrigued by the interaction of blacks and whites at UCLA.
I bet she did.
She made me her teaching assistant, and she observed that as many times as she told these white kids to check with me because I knew what was going on and could speak English better than she could, so I could explain it. She said, but they will never ask you, and then it's because you're black, isn't it? Yes. So she gave me some instructions on how this high-level stuff works, which bears out some of what you're saying here in terms of the methodology. But it's interesting in that, again, nothing's new under the sun, basically. So you do things long enough, and if you study it, you can reduce it to something of a science.
There it is.
Political science is all about. It's predictive, and it is what it is. But
it is what it is.
Country, because of its hubris of thinking that they are all fair, equal, and democratic, is very easy to manipulate that way.
And that goes back to wait, brother, what you just said is very important. So what I'm trying to tell you is, Judge Joe Brown just told you, it is what it is. What I'm telling you, when you think you're fighting the system, you're doing exactly what the system wants you to do, because after all, it's called political science. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Now, I'm trying to use some of that so we can fight it in a different way. But here is one of the big problems with America. She noticed it, and you can read about it. Alexis de Tocqueville wrote a book called Democracy in America. It's a treatise, actually, in 1843. He notes Americans do not understand the full significance of equality. He says the average peasant frontier farmer who is illiterate feels himself to be, in every sense, the equal of a PhD. What he doesn't get is that there are real distinctions in terms of the knowledge, information, thought process, and sophistication between himself as a backwoods bumpkin and PhD. He said, but there is an unusual thing in America in that although it coached for a long time, and it's basically driven by bumpkins who don't understand nor appreciate intelligence and intellect unless it's cunning, like he puts it, a mechanic who can come up with novel things that are out of the ordinary. But he says America has no appreciation for the intellect. And that's why at that point he had, what's that buffoon, Andrew Jackson, thinking about that idea of pointy-head intellectuals, ivory tower, and you don't need to be intellectual. The first thought on an American man's mind is always going to be right, etc., to do this populist thing. And he knows how America will not listen to logic, rationale, and a reason. It deals with emotion and passion in the sense of equality. And he says, interestingly enough, he says they do not understand the fallacy of equality versus true freedom. He said they have only to look at their slaves, who are all equal in the condition of their enslavement, but they are certainly not free people, nor are they privileged to do certain things that they might otherwise want to do outside of their position and station in the American way.
Okay, brother, before you go on, you just mentioned Andrew Jackson, correct?
Yes.
What state is he from?
Homicidal maniac.
No shit. What state is he from?
Tennessee.
No. So let me enlighten the listeners, because there's a meaning to my madness.
North Carolina, but...
No. Let me enlighten this listener. So the brother just talked about Andrew Jackson. I am from Charleston, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Now, I don't get into this, but these folks really believe it. I've been enlightened because there are white folks who believe that I'm some reincarnated general from the Confederate Army. And Andrew Jackson is from South Carolina, as I am.
Yeah,
John C. Calhoun is from South Carolina, as I am. I have pissed on their fucking graves, and there are white folks who tell me it's all good because you, even though you're not a Mason, you've never been a Mason, you don't even know it, but you're reincarnated from a Confederate general during World War II.
Well,
so that's why I asked you that, brother.
See, Andrew Jackson was from War of 1812, but here, Andrew Jackson is in fact from the Carolinas.
That's right.
Tennessee used to be a territory of the Carolinas.
That's exactly right.
So he is what he is, but he got his name in the Seminole Colored Wars.
And guess what? I am Irish, Scottish, Cherokee, and Seminole. But I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead.
Anyway, what his claim to fame was is he'd take the intermixed black and Seminole Indians, and he would take the women and children and put them in a wooden stockade and burn the stockade.
Hell yeah. No shit. And that's why, hey, I'm not gonna, I'll lie and I haven't said this, but I'm saying on national radio, but that's why I slept with white girls on the tombstone of John C. Calhoun and Andrew Jackson, and we desecrated everything they said about whites, blacks, Native Americans, and others.
Well, it's an interesting thing about some of the people who've been president around.
Hell yeah. And here's the sad thing. So if you go back and watch this whole thing with Kevin Spacey, and I knew why they took him down because he talked about the Bohemian Grove, but he also talked about the Native Americans and everything else. If you go back and look at that whole thing, there's a episode, I think in season 4, where they even talk about Native Americans on the wall in the White House. And now you got this, Democrat who claims that she's a Democrat and she's a Native American. What I'm just trying to tell you is this. My blood is from the Kiowa Indians, that most folks have never heard of. My blood is from the Eastern Band Cherokee. My blood is from the Seabrook Indians. And what's going on right now, there's a whole lot of stuff going on with John C. Calhoun, what the brother just talked about in regards to Andrew Jackson, and what's going on in South Carolina. And if you notice, all these folks behind the scenes always involved with the Republican Party and the Tea Party and the John Birch Society and Donald Trump, it's always somebody from South Carolina. Why? We're from the 13 original colonies. And I went to the College of Charleston. That was the first municipal college in the United States. Now, of course, they're not the longest running because when 1954, when they had the Brown versus Board of Education, the College of Charleston decided to become a private school and all that, no niggers in. I was groomed, I was educated by them because they really believe I am some bloody offspring of some Civil War general that I don't give a shit about, but they think I am, and they've enlightened me. So listen to me, listen to Judge Joe Brown when he's talking what he's saying, because he's talking from a totally different perspective from me, or from I. I am from Charleston, South Carolina. Judge Joe Brown from Los Angeles. I'm telling you, everything that Judge Joe Brown has told you today has been 100% effective. But what he doesn't realize, long before Los Angeles, it was Charleston, South Carolina, and these folks think that I am some reincarnated image of their Confederate general. So please listen to what Judge Joe Brown is telling you about Donald DeFreeze, the Symbionese Liberation Army, LAPD, Ron Karanga, and all these folks, because it all created in LA, but it started with Charleston, South Carolina. Please go on, brother.
Well, I'm going to have to get off. I've got something to do in 2 minutes. But
it is what it is.
Hey, everybody, power to the people. Keep on pushing.
Yes. Thank you.
So before you go, brother, I just want to say something. While all you folks thought that I was angry at Judge Joe Brown, what you don't need to understand is I was mentored, I was trained by OSS, Nazis, and ONI. And when even Judge Joe Brown thought that I was being antagonistic, I knew how to bring him onto this show to share stuff that he would have never shared if I didn't do what I did, because he was going on this rant about, we got to spank our fucking children. It ain't about spanking your children. You folks don't have a clue. When you think you're fighting the system, you're doing exactly what the system wants. And some guy with the initials PW, I'm going to call you later because you just fucked my life on this radio show.
Thank you, everybody. That was, you watched the show last week live and the feed was shut off. This was the remaining hour of that show. Thank you very much. Peace. I'm out.